If you have ever sat in an orthodontist office and been handed a treatment plan, a big number, and walked out with absolutely no explanation of why this happened to your child's mouth, then this episode is for you. Because here's what I want every mama to hear before she schedules that consultation, before she signs the paperwork, before she tells herself, well, I guess it's just genetics. Crowded teeth are not a genetic inevitability. They are a symptom. And the question that nobody is asking is a symptom of what? I'm Chelcie. I'm a myofunctional therapist and the founder of Breathing into Life Myofunctional Therapy. And the work I do sits right at the intersection of breathing, tongue function, and how your child's face actually develops. So I work alongside airway-focused dentists and orthodontists regularly, and I'm not here to tell you to skip the orthodontist completely. I am not anti-braces. What I am here to do is to give you the fuller picture so that you can ask better questions, make better decisions, and stop being handed a treatment plan with no explanation of what caused the problem in the first place. Because the teeth are not the problem. They are the messenger. And today we are going to talk about what they are actually saying. So let me ask you something. Has anyone ever told you that your child's crowded teeth are just genetics? Small mouth, bad luck, needs braces. Most parents hear that, most parents accept it, and I understand why, because that is what we have been told for decades. But the research tells a very different story. Facial structure, jaw development, the width of your child's palate, these are largely epigenetic. That word means shaped by environment and function, not just by the genes they were born with. What most people do not realize is that the jaw develops in response to the forces placed on it. Tongue pressure, chewing, breathing pattern. When those forces are working the way that they're supposed to, the jaw gets the signal to grow wide. The palate stays broad, there is room for the teeth. But when those forces are off, the jaw narrows, the palate rises, and the teeth crowd. And then we call it genetics. The window for the easiest, most impactful intervention is actually earlier than most families are told. And that is what this episode is about. So let's talk about point one, that the jaw is not fixed. It's actually responsive. Let's get into the actual science here, because once you understand this, you will never look at your child's mouth the same way. The craniofacial skeleton, the bones of the face and the jaw, are some of the most adaptive structures in the human body during childhood. There is a principle in biology called bone follows function. It means the bone grows and changes in response to the mechanical forces placed on it. Now, think about the tongue. The tongue, when it is resting in the correct position, sitting up on the roof of the mouth, creates gentle, constant outward pressure on the palate. That pressure is the signal the jaw needs to grow wide. It is literally a built-in palate expander. Your child was designed with one. But when the tongue rests low, down to the floor of the mouth, pressed against the bottom teeth, that pressure disappears. And without that pressure, the jaw gets a different signal: narrow, rise, shrink. This happens because of tongue tie. This happens because of mouth breathing. This happens because of poor oral posture that was never corrected. Your child's jaw is being shaped right now every single day by where their tongue sits and how they breathe. Now, let's talk about point two, that what the dental patterns are actually telling you. So now that you understand how the jaw develops, let's talk about what specific patterns you might be seeing in your child's mouth and what those patterns are trying to communicate to us. Crowded teeth. Crowded teeth mean there is not enough horizontal space, which means the jaw did not develop wide enough, which means something was interfering with the forces that should have been widening it. A high narrow palate, the roof of the mouth that looks like a cathedral ceiling instead of a flat arch. That tells me the tongue was not doing its job. And here is the part that surprises most parents. A narrow palate is literally the floor of the nasal cavity. So the child with a high narrow arch is also the child with a small nasal airway. This is not an airway problem with a cosmetic face. An open bite where the front teeth don't touch, even when the mouth is closed, that is almost always telling me there is a tongue thrust pattern. The tongue is resting forward, pushing against the teeth, reshaping the bite over time. Or a deep bite, a recessed chin, what we call a long face pattern. All of these are connected to chronic mouth breathing and low tongue posture. These are not cosmetic issues. These are functional issues with cosmetic consequences. So let's talk about point 3, that why timing matters more than most families are ever told. This is the part I really want you to hear, because the conversation around when to intervene is one of the most consequential conversations a parent can have. Craniofacial development is most responsive, most changeable before puberty. Specifically, the window between roughly ages 4 and 10 is when skeletal change is most accessible, when intervention is least invasive, and when the outcomes are strongest. What happens when we wait? The jaw finishes developing in a compromised position. Orthodontic treatment becomes more complex, and critically, an underlying functional cause is still never addressed. I want to say something here that I say to parents all the time, that braces straighten teeth. They do not fix the breathing pattern that caused the crowding. And if the breathing pattern, the tongue posture, the swallow pattern, and none of that changes, relapse is common. The teeth shift back because that force that crowded them in the first place are still there every single day. Braces are downstream, and we need to work upstream. So let's talk about point 4, what the right intervention actually looks like. So what does working upstream actually mean? Myofunctional therapy retrains the tongue to rest in the correct position. It restores nasal breathing. It repatterns the swallow. In young children, especially in that 4 to 10 window, this can support natural jaw widening without hardware, just by getting the tongue to do what it was always supposed to be doing. In combination with an airway-focused orthodontist, myofunctional therapy improves outcomes and significantly reduces the chance of relapse, because now the structure and the function are both being addressed. And what I want you to ask for when you walk into a dental or orthodontic appointment is a functional assessment, not just a structural one. A structural assessment tells you where the teeth are. A functional assessment asks, why are they there and what do we need to do about the cause? The care team that I think every child with these concerns deserve is a myofunctional therapist, a airway-focused orthodontist or pediatric dentist, and an ENT if airway obstruction piece needs to be addressed. The goal is not straight teeth. The goal is a face and airway that develop the way they were designed to. So let's give you something practical to do right now, today. I want you to look inside your child's mouth. Ask yourself, where does their tongue rest when their mouth is closed? Is it up, touching the roof of the mouth? Or is it sitting low, resting against the bottom teeth or on the floor of the mouth? Look at the shape of their palate. Is it broad and relatively flat, or does it have a high, narrow cathedral ceiling shape? Do their teeth crowd, overlap, or lean inward? And outside the mouth, does your child breathe through their mouth at rest? During sleep, do they snore? Do they have dark circles that never quite go away? If you're checking yes to even a couple of those, that is information worth acting on. If your child is under 10, you are still in an excellent window. Do not wait. If your child is older, it is not too late because function matters at every age. The approach might shift, but the work is still so meaningful. And the next time you're at a dental appointment, ask specifically, is my child's jaw developing appropriately for their age? And is their breathing pattern being factored into that assessment? If that question is met with a blank stare, that is information too. And I offer a free webinar that walks you through exactly how breathing, oral function are connected and what to do if you think your child needs support. That is the best next step I can point you to. I want to close by saying something directly. If you have been carrying the worry about your child's teeth, the confusion about what to do, and feeling that you've been told just to wait, you were right to keep asking. The webinar created is completely free and is thorough for a lot of mamas out there. It's the first time everything has been laid out clearly in one place. It covers breathing, tongue function, development, and sleep, and what to actually do if you think your child needs a closer look. So whether your child is 3 or 13, there is something in it for you. The link is in the description and the show notes. And just remember, wherever you're at in this journey, it's never too late to build the foundation that will serve your child for a lifetime.